Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy, your friendly PM coach. I help product leaders ace their PM interviews at L6 levels and above in big tech. Today, we're talking about acing leadership and behavior interviews. And the prompt is, how do you deliver bad news to leadership? For senior level candidates at L6 levels and above, I always recommend that you start your interview answers using your BLUFF statement. What is BLUFF? Bottom line up front. And the reason why I recommend this framework before using the STAR framework or any of its cousins is because it mirrors leadership communication style. How do leaders communicate? Let's use this analogy. There's a mountain and leaders are standing at the top of the mountain, and other people are standing at the bottom of the mountain. Leaders' perspective would be seeing top of the trees in the forest. Other people's perspective is seeing grass on the ground. And so if we want to communicate like a leader, we have to communicate at a zoomed out level, forest level, top of the tree level. And that's what you could accomplish by using BLUFF. So in this clip, I walk the group through an exercise to come up with a BLUFF statement to answer, how would you deliver bad news to leadership? Here's the clip.
I'll start with the BLUFF framework right away, that there are things that are not under a product manager's control. They can help mitigate issues, but in situation where things are not going in the timely manner as expected, we should always, first and foremost, give a heads up to our leadership so that they're not in the dark.
Okay, if that is your messaging, then your BLUFF is if we actually had good communication, this would not be considered bad news. It would just be news. It would not be bad news. I think that is what you're saying. As long as we give timely updates along the way, then there's no surprises at the end, then you can manage a situation better. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your take on a statement that says escalations happen? We should align and give leadership heads up so that they're not in the dark. So that's one statement. And then my version of the same story is if the communication is where it should be, then we are not delivering bad news. We're just delivering news. What is the difference between the two statements? The meaning is the same.
There are more triggering words.
Such as what?
Escalation, bad news. Nancy's language is more like it makes you feel more secure. She's just saying if the communication level is where it ought to be, there's no surprises. Just hearing the word escalation, I get like prickly. Oh, escalations are normal? That's scary. Because no one wants an escalation. But if it's just communication, that's more calming. Even if the content being communicated is actually an escalation about an issue, it's not because it's just communication.
The first statement is, yes, escalations happen. And as long as we align on the messaging and then give heads up, then leadership will not be in the dark. Version number 2, if the communication is where it's supposed to be, then we wouldn't have bad news. We would just have news. It's at a higher level, and I'm speaking to the audience. I'm assuming the audience is a hiring manager in this case. I'm saying your problem at hand would actually never happen as long as my communication is where it's supposed to be. It's a hook into my story. So in an interview setting, if I were to use number 2 as a BLUFF, there's a higher chance that the person would be drawn into my story more than the first version of the statement.
Because you're saying someone hears, oh, there wouldn't be bad news, and then they get curious about what you're going to say.
Because I'm saying there wouldn't be bad news. It's just news. I'm neutralizing it, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way of bringing more interest in that story. That the trigger words that you were right, like it is triggering when we say like escalation and heads up and leadership and dark. You don't want to come across bringing only issues. You should be coming across as giving options so that the leadership can take one step or the other. They don't need to be thinking more about an issue that you couldn't resolve at the end of the
Right.
day.
Part of how we communicate is also how we take care of our audience. That's another way of thinking about this. I am taking care of what might trigger you. I'm taking care of what I think you want. They want to know what's up, right? They want to know if we're making good progress. It's not like they don't want bad news. They don't like to be cornered. And so when we surprise them with something, it feels like we're cornering them versus if I just own my communication, if my communication is where it's supposed to be, then you would just have news. Not good or bad, you would just have news. And that's me taking care of you being my audience, you being my hiring manager. How is this
I think that,
how is it
yeah,
landing?
I think it's landing pretty well because during the interview, you want to showcase positive energy and
Yeah.
making them a bit more relaxed and more interested in that conversation.
Yes. Is this helpful, this type of breakdown?
I think
It
so.
does.
Okay, cool. Hopefully, this breakdown was also helpful for you. Were you able to grasp the differences between the two statements? Part of leadership communication also involves taking care of our audience. And we want to meet them where they are through our communication. Here's what my coach said that I think is so relevant for this discussion. The meaning of conversation is what was received and not what was shared. And so when we communicate, whether in an interview situation or at work, we always want to meet them where they are. We need to pay attention to how they'll receive the message and how we could deliver in the most concise, succinct, and strategic way. This will not only help you stand out in your interviews, but will also help you up-level in your career. If you want some help in acing PM interviews in big tech at L6 and above, you could join our free community that has a lot of free resources and monthly roundtables. The link is in the description box and I'll see you there. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. See you in our community and also in our next video. Take care.